Brian, I guess as you look ahead to the start of the season, I think the question on everybody's mind is, how do you replace what you lost in Ryan Rua and Brandon James, arguably the two best offensive players in school history, guys who hit 400, league leaders in hitting. And I think that a lot of people on the outside will probably say, hey, where's the offense going to come from?
I think we're just going to have guys that necessarily haven't been put in those roles or those situations the last couple of years step up. Guys like Jay Leeworthy and Kyle Kemp have been hitting near the middle of our order over the last couple of years, so I think their experience alone will be sufficient in filling those roles. Despite the big seasons that Brandon James and Ryan Rua had for us last year, there were guys on base for them to drive those runs in and to be driven in themselves. So, I don't think there's a question as to whether or not we'll be thick through our lineup. We've always been an offensive team ever since I took over the program back in 2008, and we continue to have those same ambitions and expectations of our hitters, and I don't think we'll fall nothing short of less than what that expectation is.
I think Matt Toth was the guy that you mentioned had a fantastic year last year, arguably one of your team leaders, and what kind of player has he been? What kind of a leader has he been for you? And obviously the things that he can do with the bat and in the field as well.
Yeah, Matt's a tremendous player for us. Has been a starter since his freshman year. We feel that he's probably, with all due respect, one of the most underrated players in the conference. I think, just for the sheer numbers of what Rue and James put up last year, he might have been kind of hidden behind those guys. But the fact is he was one of only 4 guys that hit 400 in the conference last year. He was an all-region Gold Glove guy for us last year, and like I said, has been a starter and a leader in this program since the time he stepped foot on campus, really, and we expect big production out of him again this year.
You guys got one guy coming back, senior Nick Levick, who wasn't in the lineup last year. I'm sure you're expecting to fill some of that production.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think Pat Kilway caught a majority of our games last year and did a great job in Nick's absence, and we're going to still need to find ways to keep Pat's bat in the lineup. He's one of our better offensive players, but having Nick this year, I think, is going to be really shown on the defensive side. I think he's that good defensively where he makes our pitchers better just being back there himself. Pitchers have confidence to throw the pitches that you want in certain counts and not be afraid to throw a ball in the dirt with a runner on third. And Nick's going to block him up and slow down the running game and things like that. Offensively, he's going to probably hit in the middle of our order for us. He'll definitely be one of our stronger at bats and defensive catchers. So we're definitely excited to have him back. And I think overall defensively, we weren't at all where I want to be at the end of the year last year. But I think having a stable catcher back there, a guy that is going to be reliable day in and day out, is going to make a big difference in our defensive play as a whole.
Thank your standpoint as the pitching coach, how important is it having somebody back there as skilled as Nick?
Well, Jason, it's going to be very important. Last year we weren't very good at holding runners, weren't very good at throwing runners out. I think this year it's going to help having that experience, not only having him back there, but help tutor the young guys. I know as a pitching staff, we're going to work on controlling the running game a lot better this year, especially against teams like Southern Indiana who like to run a lot in past years. So I think it's definitely going to be a key ingredient to our success this year.
Coach Bunnell, something that was talked about here was defense. I know last year you guys weren't the best defensive team in the league. Is this the case for this year? You might be putting out a lineup that's better defensively and can make up for some of the offense that you lost with those top 2 guys?
Yeah, definitely. I just think having a year for some of these guys to get their feet wet is going to help. Matt Vanny's been a guy who's always been a consistent player who may not make the flashy play, but he's going to make the play that's going to get you out of the inning, return the double play to get out of the jam. So we've got guys like that, and our outfield is going to be much improved. Kasike moving back to the outfield, which is his original position. We kind of flopped him around. I think having him out there patrolling the outfield is going to make everyone else better. Combined with Toth, who's a Gold Glove winner, but that kind of got almost swept under the rug, lost in all the offensive production of the team last year. So we've got guys, just the extra year experience, that's just going to make us that much better.
Talk about extra year, a second year. Brian, your 5th year now as the head coach. Your coaching staff in place for its 2nd straight year. Guys who now are seniors and juniors in the program. how important is that, and how different has it been to have a good core group of seniors where it's not just one or two guys like it has been in the past?
This is something that we've been looking forward to since our first recruiting class. You know, the guys that are seniors now was our first recruiting class, and they've had the opportunity to, you know, grow in the program and make the program what it is today. So I think they're ready for that situation and that leadership role. Last year and the year before, we didn't have a whole lot of upperclassmen on the team to be able to, you know, relate to or look up to and so forth. But these guys have taken a fantastic role in the leadership side of things and showing the young guys what's expected in this program, how to go about your business, how we do work, and, you know, where we want to be, you know, going into the season, let alone at the end of the year.
Who are those guys that have stepped up? I know you guys have a few captains named. Who are those guys, and how do you kind of treat that relationship as far as mediation between the team and yourself?
Yeah, well, we have captains. You know, 3 of them are named right now: Zach Mossberger, J.D. Ingles, and Nick Lovick. They're kind of the guys in between the team and the coaching staff. If the players have an issue with something on or off the field that they want to be addressed, the team wants to address with the coaches, or to go to their captains first. So they're kind of that liaison for us and bring things to our attention that we might necessarily catch as just coaches and give us a little bit of insight. But we have, you know, guys like Matt Toth, who I said before has been a leader since day one. He leads it tremendously by example. And we got a guy that's a little bit more vocal in Jay Leeworthy, who's been a senior and has looked up, you know, to the team and is one more of the popular guys, I feel, too. So he takes on that leadership role for us. So I think, you know, top to bottom, all of our seniors do a great job. Mike Backus, Glenn Stewart, you know, Brian Kasike, who's only been in the program for 2 years, but he's, you know, taken that role on pretty well and has been accepted by the younger guys in that fashion as well. So I don't think there's going to be any question that we're going to be able to get over the hump of some things that we weren't able to last year, just for the sheer fact of having guys that have now been out there for 4 years. It's going to really help.
And the other year, I think, too, something else to mention is the year of experience competing in the GLIAC. You know, the first couple of years of the program, transitioning from Division III to Division II and playing that independent schedule, you don't get to see weekend in, weekend out, the level of competition that you see in the GLIAC. And so that's something that the guys talk about, you know, that say, hey, wow, this league is really tough. These, you know, every game is a grind. Is that something they talk about, or is it something that's not spoken about during the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's well known that the conference we play in is one of the better and premier conferences in Division II in the country, and the guys are well aware of that they need to be ready to go every day or they can be beaten on any given day. But, you know, I think that the year of experience that we got last year kind of, it played more of a role in we know where we're at, we know where we want to go, and we know where we can be. You know, last year there was a lot of uncertainties going into it that created a little bit more stress and pressure, just not really knowing exactly who you're going up against, what type of talent level is actually out there. And I think we feel really good after being in the league for a year now. I think we see where we can fit into things, and our expectation is nothing less than to be in the conference tournament at the end of the year. So I think having that year last year under our belt has given us some, you know, confidence that that's where we can be and that's where we expect to be.
So a lot of coaches, with playing in a league like the GLIAC, which is so difficult, would sort of take an easy non-conference schedule route. You guys really have gone the opposite, really loaded up in your first trip coming up this weekend and then during spring break. Tell us about some of those teams you're playing and sort of the philosophy among you guys to decide to play a difficult non-conference schedule.
Yeah, well, there's many teams on our schedule right now, on conference and non-conference, that, you know, are regionally ranked, nationally ranked by the collegiate baseball polls. And we believe, this coaching staff believes, if we want to be the best team, we've got to beat the best teams. And we feel that the ultimate thing is to prepare yourself for the conference tournament. We want to give our guys the feeling that, hey, if we can get through the conference and get into regional, we've played these type of teams. There's no uncertainty, kind of like with the GLIAC last year. Now having that under our belt and having that confidence, I think, is only going to help our success rate when we get to that level, because we'll have played those teams, we'll know what we're up against, and we'll have a good sense that we can beat those teams and do well. You know, I think there's a lot of teams out there that have won 30 games in the past, and you look at their non-conference schedule, and they might have won 10 of those games in their non-conference schedule. So, you know, we don't look at the overall schedule or the overall record as the basis for our success. The basis for our success is where we end up at the end of the year.
I think looking at that schedule, that 9 in the top 45, that's of the collegiate polls. 3 of those obviously being GLIAC teams in Grand Valley, Wayne State, and Ashland. And no surprise, those are the 3 teams picked to win the league. But so 6 out of conference games against ranked teams. I think you guys will see pretty early on where you stand.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. These guys that we open up with, Southern Indiana, they won the Division II National Championship in 2010, and we're back in a regional again last year. After that we traveled to Northern Kentucky and then to Delta State and Southern Arkansas, and all those teams have been in the recent regional rankings and in the recent regional tournaments. So, virtually we're playing a regional schedule or regional tournament to start off our season and hopefully end our season this year too. We'll see some of those guys again down the road.
What, from your guys' perspective, I think, everybody's curious that each season is different, obviously, and each preparation for each season is a little different. What's been the team's mentality, in preseason practices this year? Obviously, the nice weather, the unseasonably warm weather. We've gotten outside probably arguably more than we have in recent history. So what's kind of the attitude been like, and how has the weather been really affecting that, guys being able to get outside and not just hitting in the cage all the time?
I'll let Coach Bunnell field that question. He does our strength and conditioning, and he coordinates a lot of the defensive side of our practices and whatnot, and he could probably give you a good assessment of what's been going on there.
Thanks for the assist there. Basically, just getting outside is just key to get used to the elements. You're trapped inside for 4 or 5 weeks, and most years, the first time you get outside is opening day. So just having the chance the last couple of weeks to be outside, familiar yourself with maybe it being a little colder, although the last couple of weeks have been warmer than probably we'll see in season, unfortunately. But just being able to be outside and throwing 90 feet, not just cutting off in the infield. We get cramped into confined spaces with bullpens going on, cage work. Just being able to be outside is, well, it's honestly, you won't be able to tell until we get outside how much it's helped. So.
Well, the ground ball comes off differently off of the infield than it does off the mondo,
yeah,
a multi-purpose gym.
Exactly. We're not on the gym floor anymore, so and it's still going to be an adjustment because we're on turf, and to my knowledge, we're not playing on any turf fields until hopefully the end of the year. So, it's still going to be an adjustment, but just it's going to ease the transition for sure.
On the other side of that preparation, Coach Say, you guys are starting the season a couple weeks, earlier than most years, and combine that with a little bit of a late start to the practice season. How have your pitchers been able to get ready for the season?
Well, you are right. We are starting a little earlier this year than we have in the past, and we've had more time to build up our pitching. The biggest thing is obviously we're young, but I feel like we're more experienced this year. We're led by three true seniors, Mike Backus, and Glenn Stewart, and then 2 redshirt juniors, J.D. Ingles and Adam Beach. And they're used to going through this. They're all built up to where they need to be coming into this season. Being outside has been huge for us. Obviously, it's a lot different throwing live in a cage where you're surrounded by a screen, and then being outside where you can actually see where the balls are being hit, so they're able to tell if they're making good pitches or not. In the cage, it's a little tough because you're hitting balls up. You're like, is that a base hit? Is that a pop out? You can't really tell. But I think it's been huge for our guys to throw outside, especially. It's nice weather.
I think the weather has put us all in a good mood, and has that transcended to the team? Are they a bunch that's focused and prepared, but loose at the same time? They're not real tight, and is that something you're seeing from them, or you say, hey, we're not where we need to be mentally yet?
No, I think we're about where we want to be. This coaching staff has done a good job this year, especially to keep things light. We do have those seniors. They know what's expected. They know what's ahead of them. They know what to do. We're kind of giving them the opportunity to get the team going in the direction they want them to go in. And in years past we've had to be tougher on the guys and a little bit more strict, but that's through building a program and instilling that discipline and structure. But the guys have bought in well, so I've been a little bit more loose than I have in the past, and I think they realize that, and I think it's given them a sense of we got this thing and we're ready to go, and everything's going to work out good this year. So we've tried to keep a less stressful environment for the guys, and I think it's going to pay off this year. We've got a good loose feeling about ourselves that we're just going to go out there and take care of business.
What's a one-word key to a successful season?
Defense.
good one. Just composure, I think, is probably
I'd say preparation.
all very good ones.
All very solid points.
All very solid points, all very good, and that's what we kind of want to get. Let's talk a little bit specifically about this opening weekend, and obviously a quality opponent, as you mentioned, in Southern Indiana, and a team that's been out there and played a couple of games already this season. Does that put you guys? Do you feel that puts you behind the 8 ball at all in terms of them having had that experience of playing 4 or 5 games already?
You guys want to answer that one? I mean, I feel that we just need to worry about what we can do, what we can control. If we go out there, we play good defense, we throw strikes, we keep our composure, and we're prepared going into it, then I think that things will just take care of itself. Obviously there's an advantage, as Coach Bunnell was talking earlier, of getting outside and getting that feeling, getting back on a field. But, I think there's an advantage for the other side of it too. We're hungry, we're ready to go out, we're a little bit more excited to be back outside, where these guys have had that pleasure of being outside and playing some games already. So I think we're going to have a different energy about us, and you can see the pros and cons of both sides. But, if we win, it's because we were the better team that weekend. If we lose, it's because they were the better team that weekend.
Talk a little bit about what you look to see in the opening weekend and going into spring break. Are you looking to, try to win as many games as possible, or you want to see some different guys in different situations?
Well, it depends who you're asking. If you're asking me or you're asking my assistant coaches, it might be a little bit different. So I think we've got a little bit of balance of that right now with the coaching staff. I think everybody wants to see a little bit of both, and we're going to try to work together as a staff to make sure that these two guys are happy with the decisions that are being made too. And as much as we respect and we love all of our guys and they're all working hard, our ultimate goal is to win a championship, and we've got to play the best players that we can to get them out on the field to give us the best chances to win that championship. In the same breath, like I said, we do have hearts for our guys too, and we hope that the right opportunities come up, that everybody gets a chance this year. But there's no promises with that, and the only promise is we're going to try to do everything we can to win every game.
If we look at the team, in terms of a quote-unquote depth chart or a lineup, I think obviously there are a couple of losses from last year, but there's a really big core group that returns. And I think you touched on earlier, moving CK back to the outfield, but the infield then is pretty stable and pretty solid. You've got guys at the corners, and Jay Leeworthy and Cody Blood, who have been there for a while, and guys in the middle who got some really good experience the last couple of years, Matt Vaney and Reed Rizzo. So, well, how's that shaping up in the infield?
Well, I mean, you said Cody, this will be his 3rd year starting. You wouldn't know it because he said about 3 words in those 3 years, but he just goes out. You talk about consistency. He's a guy that just goes out day in, day out. You don't have to worry about, did I explain it right? Does he know what we're doing? He's there, whether it's bunt coverages, if we're busy. Coaches are talking about what pitchers to bring in. We don't necessarily need to worry about Cody getting team set up for bunts. He'll take charge there. We got, as we mentioned, Nick Lovett behind the plate. He kind of sets the tone for the whole infield. And Leeworthy mentioned he's played, this is his 4th year lettering. Will be. So the corners are set now. Obviously, Rua gone, leaves a hole in the middle, but Vanny and Rizzo both got great experience last year between second and short. So I think we're pretty strong up the middle in that department. So we may not be as prolific with the extra base hits, which will remain to be seen, but I think we'll be strong up the middle. So just preventing runs, in addition to improved pitching, we're in better shape from that standpoint.
In the college game, there's a lot of situational things where guys have to get, you pinch run, you pinch hit, you do some substitutions, you pinch hit, you pinch run, different situations. Who are some guys coming in off the bench that we could expect to see and maybe compete and maybe even get a couple starts here and there?
Yeah. Well, in the infield, Sean Matthews, a freshman from the Detroit area, is a guy who's one of the better club guys on the team. He's shown flashes of Rua-esque plays, I guess, early on in the fall when he's had a chance out on the turf. But he's another consistent guy who, late innings, if we do pinch hit and we have a hole to fill, he could be a guy. Pat Kilway was mentioned. bounce around. He caught last year, so we have options there, but he can also play first base, along with Josh Kraut, who more of a pinch hitter type role, but has been out in the field, definitely shown some improvement, and can be a guy at the corner. And then at third base, a couple young guys, Jake Gilstorf, one of them, another freshman who's made some great strides from the fall to now, completely different player than he was in September. So there's a few guys that, hopefully we get to the situations where the games are close and we're able to use a lot of guys, get them experience for, the coach said, down the line in the postseason when we need everyone on the bench, those guys can contribute.
Yeah, I think it's something this year that we haven't had in the past is depth. We've been building our team towards having the right 9 guys on the field to give us a great chance and a run at this conference, and I think we've gotten to that point maybe even last year to where we improved on that. Now I think this year, as Coach Bunnell mentioned, guys like Sean Matthews and Jake Gilsdorf and Garrett Emling, we've got several talented players that we need to find time for them to get on the field and see what they can do. So I feel really good about the depth of this year's team and having the options to do some of those things that you mentioned earlier, like a late inning pinch runner, or then move the pinch runner in for a guy that can play defense that went in his replacement. So I think we've got multiple options this year, where last year we had to think, well, if we're going to run for him, we better run for someone that plays that position because there's nobody else to put in. Where this year, guys might see time where they come in, they pinch run, and that's it for the day. They're right back out of the game because we're that deep to where we can shuffle guys around to stay that talented on the field, I think, from inning to inning.
I think that's something that's going to be pretty key for your pitching staff this year. Really have pretty much everyone back from last year's team. A couple of new additions that I know you expect to play contributing roles. So how do you see things shaking out as far as starters go, and then the depth in the bullpen?
Well, yeah, depth is something we definitely have on the pitching staff. We pretty much returned all of our starting pitching from last year. We only brought 3 young arms in, freshmen, Russ Hogue, Corey Fox, and Heath Kelly. Heath also plays the outfield a little bit. But all 3 of them I expect to get significant innings this year and help us improve in that aspect out of the bullpen. All of our starters return, which is great. Obviously this weekend we're going with Adam Beach leading off, number 1, and then Brian Kilway and Mike Backus following him. When we start going and getting more games in, we'll have Logan Norquist, who's been a continuous starter for us the past couple of years. Brad Rayleigh, who got a start last year, did really well through a lot of innings out of the bullpen. Expect big things out of him this year. Jimmy Shaw has shown a ton of improvement. He's looking really, really good. We haven't really decided what we want to do with him yet. He's kind of been bouncing around. Bullpen starter. He started a lot this fall. All those guys had really good falls for us. I expect huge things out of them. I think with our defense, like Coach Bunnell talked about, with our experience on the mound and our better defense, when mistakes do happen, they're not going to react the way they did last year. They'll compose themselves a little more and get back out there and compete. So.
You said, are there enough innings to go around? For everybody, and that's going to be a challenge for you with everybody coming back and guys, in different roles. Are there enough?
We hope not. That means our starters are going pretty deep. But there's always situations that come up, and we've got very talented guys that can pitch in very minimal situations and have an effect on the team and an impact on the team's success over the long haul of the season. So from game to game, it might be tough on some guys where I only got in there just facing a batter or 2, but when they look back on the season and the role that they fulfilled for us, I think they'll see how much that contributed to our success.
I think the depth, most of all, is going to help our bullpen. Because I feel like last year we got run down a little bit because we were used a lot more towards the beginning of the year. And as we started playing those 7-inning games, our starters cards, we just kept them in a little longer than we wanted to, just because guys didn't take advantage of their opportunities and so forth. But I think with our bullpen being deeper, with J.D. Ingles being back, Doug Fox, all-conference guy, coming back, we're a little deeper in that bullpen with those young arms we added, a little more experience in the back end. So.
You mentioned Doug. Doug was a guy who kind of emerged last year as a go-to guy, and him specifically, but other guys. How confident do you have, as coaches, to know that there's one or two guys that you can absolutely go to, and you know exactly what you're going to get from them? How much of a relief is that there's really no question marks with some of those guys?
I want to say that I feel a lot more comfortable this year going to more guys than I did last year. Just because I have a better feel for them. Last year being my first year, I didn't really know them as well as I do now. I know the guys that are going to be able to go out there and get it done for us. I think, like I said, we just have way more depth this year than we did in the past.
But yeah, having a guy like Doug, no question, it relieves a lot of stress not only for the coaches but the players too, because I think they see that we have a guy in that role, and it makes them able to focus on maybe stepping up in a different role, in a role that's needed that nobody else that we didn't have last year. So I think having a guy like that just relieves a lot of stress and a lot of doubt and a lot of worries for the whole club itself, not just the coaches. But we got guys like Morgan, and as Coach Sankovich mentioned, Ingles is back, and Patrick Senko throws really well from down low. He gives you a different look. And Jimmy Shaw's been throwing outstanding. He's pitching. His opponent's batting average last year was a 182 batting average against, which was one of the best in the conference. It's just a matter of us finding more innings to get to him and utilize that. So I think there's a tremendous amount of talent and depth within the pitching, within the defense, within the speed of the team, and offensively. We're ready to go. There's no question.
So looking to build on last year's record-setting season for the team, what are some of the team goals, and what do you hope to have accomplished this season?
Well, one of our goals is to get Coach Sankovich to cut his hair.
It's a good look. Really. No, I think, as far as team goals for the year, we're very focused on one thing. We want to get into the postseason, to put numbers on things and expectations on individuals. We preach that this is a team sport. This is a team that we have, and we have one focus, and that's to get into the conference tournament. Despite the fact that we're looked at by our peers as one of the teams at the bottom of the conference, we have an inside goal right now that we want to finish inside the top 4. This year they expanded the conference tournament bids out to 6 teams. Last year and the years past it's only been 4, so we want to not get one of those extra spots that they're throwing out there this year. We want to see ourselves in the top 4 and get one of those spots. So I think we're ready to go. What do you think, Coach Sang?
Oh yeah, we're ready to go.